Hello, Tracy here with another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm going to be scrapbooking another page using the MercyTiara kit called Feeling Groovy. And I started off the day not on a great foot because my brother Scan and Cut was not cutting this background file very well at all. And I was very disappointed actually. I checked the cut file and it is not the file. It seems to be my machine. It's like the paper is not staying put as it cuts, and I can't seem to be able to do that. To get it to work right today. So I really wanted to use this cut file because look at how great it looks with that photo. And I wanted to cut it in white and have it as a background. Now I do have a nice cut version of it here, but it is too small and I want it to be the full 12 by 12. So I was just cutting another piece of cardstock here in craft just to see how it worked. And I abandoned it in the middle. And then I regretted it because this one was actually cutting better than the white one. And so what I did was in the middle of the cut, I thought, oh, there's no point in cutting it again because it's just going to cut just as badly for the white one as it did for the white one. And so I just pressed pause and then canceled it and took it off the mat. And it wasn't until later that I realized, like as I was looking at this, I thought this one actually isn't too bad. It's not bad at all. It's a little bit jiggy, but like there are just jaggedy lines, but it actually cut pretty well. And I thought, oh, I wish I didn't cancel it because if the whole thing cut that well, I would have used it. It's not perfect, but it would be good enough. And I actually thought that the leftover piece here after I interrupted the cutting actually looked pretty good and that it might make a really nice overlay for a background for a scrapbooking page. So that's what I'm going to do here is use this rescued background cut file. And I'm just going to cut it to 12 by 12 because it does have the strip. This is Basil Basics craft paper. It's untextured, so it's just a smooth craft paper and I love it. And yeah, I actually think that I like this better than if I had cut the whole background with this because the resulting piece is going to look really great. So there was this part that was a little torn because I did interrupt the cut, and I'm just going to lay my photo so that it covers up that little place where the cut isn't perfect. And I found this page, which I definitely want to use for a background. So I'm just going to set that aside and I'm actually going to scrapbook this later on in the same sitting. So that will be the next project on my channel. So keep an eye out for that one. It should be the next video right after this one. And I'm just taking a look at which of these patterned papers I would like to use as the background. And some of them, as soon as I look at them, I'm thinking, no, I don't want that. But this yellow one, I kept coming back to, and I really like it. Now that I like too, but I don't like the competing angles with the cut file and the gingham. Same with those stripes. And that one I liked, but again, it's those competing angles of the vertical stripes with all of those different diagonal lines. And so I'm going to end up going back. That looks quite nice too. I'm going to end up going back to that yellow patterned paper. And all of these papers are from the Feeling Groovy kit, which is the May kit from MercyTiara Kits. And this cut file is also from the kit. So if you buy the main kit, you do get this and a few other cut files. And the cut file works perfectly. I did cut it before and it worked perfectly. It's just, I don't know what happened to the settings on my brother's Scan and Cut. I need to fiddle around with it and I'm not good at fiddling with things. I don't like to use my crafty time figuring out technology. I want to just craft. So that's why I just stopped even trying. I just wanted to craft. You'll notice that the footage is a little bit different for this one because I am live streaming during this one. Every month, I choose a Saturday or a Sunday morning or evening, and I live stream with my patrons. And so that's what this is. That's why you can see me up in the corner. So I just went to my storage cubbies. I have a calyx unit where I keep my paper, and I just grabbed a piece of inexpensive white cardstock because this is just going to be on the background of my page, because you see how there wasn't a full piece of that yellow paper. I need it to be a full piece so that I can pop up that background off of this other background. Basically the overlay. I want to pop up the overlay. And in order to do that, I have to have something behind this section as well as the bottom section. So even though you don't see this, I still need something behind this so that the foam tape will have something to stick to. This is my giant roll of Scotch foam double-sided adhesive, and I love this. It's a much more cost-effective way to use foam dimensional adhesive. I do love my Stampin' Up! Dimensional adhesive, but it can get a little pricey if you're doing this much. So I just cut those strips into half width in order to line this part of it, like the outline. And then I'm going to make a mistake here. So I'm going to put this one down like that, and just a little patchwork right there. This stuff tears really easily, so that's good. And I'm just going to stick that leftover piece to the roll so that I have it if I ever need it again, and I will be needing it again very soon, because I thought I was ready, but what I really want to do is reinforce all of those little lines so that it doesn't sit flat in the middle part, right? So I haven't decided quite yet that that's what I want to do. So that means that I am tearing off this tape, because I think I'm going to just attach it right now. And then I realize, wait a second, I want to reinforce these, and I end up reinforcing all of them. So I'm taking that half width and I'm cutting it in half again. So I'm using 1/4 width of this tape. And this is a 1/2 inch Scotch double-sided foam adhesive. So these would be 1/8 inch strips. And I'll just continue to do that until I have reinforced all of these little bridges, or whatever you want to call them, the little strips of paper in between the gaps. And each piece I'll cut in half, and then I'll cut in half again. And at first I was thinking I'll just do some of them so that it doesn't fall flat. And then I thought, if I'm doing some of them, I might as well do all of them. There's not that many there, so I'm going to keep on trimming down my tape. So this was a 1/2 width, and I just trimmed it down again to 1/4 widths, and keep on adhering it to all of these little legs and arms and bridges, whatever you want to call them, on the craft paper. And this was a pretty rewarding process. Like, it looks really great when I turn it over. I really love how this ends up looking. Just that combination of the yellow patterned paper with the craft overlay, it's just perfect. And it is a floral, but it's like a graphic floral, and so it's not too feminine. And I think it works really, really well with that picture of the tiger on the sign that she's standing in front of. This was Liv on her first day on campus. She is going to Dalhousie University next year, and once she got her acceptance, well, she got her acceptance to the general science program. She got early acceptance back in September, but she was holding out for another program that's pretty competitive, so she wasn't sure if she could get in, and so she was waiting for that before she got all excited and visited the campus. So once she got her acceptance letter, and she even got a scholarship, I'm super proud of her, she decided to go visit the university and get a hoodie and some swag from the university bookshop. So that is us at the Dalhousie Student Union building. Just inside the doors, there's this big mural that you can stand in front of to take a selfie. And luckily, there was nobody at the sub that day. We went on a Saturday during, I don't know, I think it was towards the end of the school year. A lot of students were probably studying for exams. And so we took a picture there, and we spent a long time in that bookstore. She couldn't decide if she wanted just a general hoodie or a hoodie from her program. And she went with the general hoodie, if you're wondering. So I'm loving that. It looks great. Now I didn't put that on 100% straight, so let's just trim this down. I'm trimming it with my scissors at a bit of an angle so that the layer underneath is a little bit smaller, just so that none of that white cardstock shows. And so now I want to mat this photo, and I was thinking about underlining here or outlining here where I was running my finger, but then I decided not to, and I really like the look. I'm glad I did not. I'm glad that I didn't outline. So I'm just going to mat this, and I was actually cautiously matting it because I wasn't sure if I wanted to mat it this way. So I didn't use too much adhesive. I actually removed some of the adhesive that my ATG was putting there. And I'm just going to trim this down. And the top is longer, but that's okay. I'm going to trim it down. I just wanted it so that there was some yellow showing. And so I positioned the photo in a way that there was some yellow on the top and yellow on the bottom. And that will tie into the yellow that's in the background. And I do really like that, but I just felt like the photo was lacking a little bit of impact. So one of the best ways to deal with that is to add a fairly bold, either a black or a very, like I'm using navy blue here, or even a high contrast stripe, like a really bold black and white mail stripe would do the trick. But in this case, I'm using navy blue because there's blue in that picture of the tiger. So now we'll mat that on top of this, and now very little of that pattern paper is showing, but I still really like it. I like it like that. It's a very subtle addition, but it's a good one. It just adds a pop of color into the photo, around the photo. Now I'm just using my tonic distress tool here. This just has a bunch of blades, and you run it along the edge, and it just gives a nice soft look. So next, we're going to figure out what else we want to put behind that photo. I don't want too much embellishments. Whenever I use a background die like this, not a die, a background cut file like this, I usually don't do a whole lot of embellishing. I do like how the hello seems to fit in the valley here on this cut file, but yeah, I'm going to go back and forth. Do I want to call this yes, or I was thinking yes, as in like, yes, I got in, or like hello Dal or something like that. And I ultimately went with yes, but I'm actually going to place it here so that it's mostly on the photo in that blank spot underneath of the hashtag for the Dal Student Union. It's not a hashtag, it's actually a little Instagram sign. So I'm going to pull out some chipboard. This is from the mixed Vicky Bouton chipboard set, which was included in the embellishment add-on for the May kit from MercyTiara Kits. And there are so many versatile pieces in that. And what I was saying with my, Stephanie just left me a sweet comment there, so I put that up on the screen. And what I was saying with my patrons as I was doing this is that set of chipboard is so versatile, and there's so many pieces in it that we'll all be using that for many layouts to come. And I thought that it was kind of cool to put something in the embellishment kit that might last more than just a month. And I might do that every once in a while, is, you know, put something that you could use that month, but also moving forward for a couple of more months. And so if you get the embellishment pack on a regular basis, you might find that every once in a while, like maybe once the first thing is starting to run out, then you might find another hefty item in your embellishment add-on that might kind of go quite a long ways. I mean, any of these will go quite a long ways. I mean, nobody's going to use all these die cuts either in a month, but those chipboard pieces are just so versatile, and they're almost like basics for scrapbooking. And it's nice to have some basics like that. So I'm just picking out some embellishments that might layer behind this photo. I really like that compass. I think it supports the story around, like decision making and the direction your life is going in for entering university and that sort of thing. So I have that. I also have that little gingham punch. It's not a punch, but it is a punched tab, and I almost used that on the last page, but I ended up feeling like it was too small of a tab, so I die cut a larger one. So I had that left over, and I thought I might put it on this page, and it was punched using the Stampin' Up rounded tab punch. So I just have a number of different embellishments that represent either change or direction or growth or starting something new and that sort of thing in university and school. So I have a pen, and I have a compass, and I have a little bag that says, I think it says get ready to go or something like that, key, and a few other things, including a bike, just for going. I decided that I wanted to use this compass, but I didn't like how wide the outlining, the white edges on it were, so I decided not to use, to cut it down. And those are just things I use for my live stream. Sometimes actually not even just for live stream, but sometimes I use my magic 8-ball to help me make decisions in scrapbooking, just to randomize things. And then I have a timer that I use to remind myself when to stop the scrapbooking and do a little bit of chatting with the patrons who are watching and commenting and whatnot. So I did have to go and find the date, and that was pretty easy to do. I just searched for Dalhousie, and the location tag because I took the photo with my phone, it was already there. So I just used my roller date stamp, which my good friend Diane gave to me, and some narwhal ink, which is a nice gray. It's a warm gray. Now I did end up cutting off the top of that compass, and then I just used my white pen to cover over the section where it didn't, just to make it look like a complete circle. But it turns out I'm going to put this compass inside of the heart and layer the whole thing in behind. And it doesn't look perfect, like it's a little bit weird. You can still see the south and the west, but the north is covered by the little dip in where the heart is. But I do really like it. I think it's cute. It's a compass inside of a heart, and I think that that's nice for the idea of your young one going off to university. I know that I want to use some of these frames up in the top left-hand corner to hold some journaling. I just don't know which ones or exactly how I want to do that yet. But this die cut piece, or not die cut, it's a chipboard sticker from the Vicki Boutin Where to Next thickers. It says discover new places, and that's what university is all about. So I'm going to put that there. And then I thought about using that other little half of a frame because it's a lighter yellow and it picks up on the light yellow in the bottom of the layout, like underneath the overlay. But I'm just going to not do that. So I'm going to play around with layering a couple of things together here. I like using this blue circle frame. And I think when I use the blue circle frame, I don't need that smaller blue frame. So I'm just going to take that one out, and I'm just going to put a little cluster up here that's basically like that. I like how that looks. I'm going to put away the blue star and any other things that I don't think I'm going to use. And here's where I'm just talking about those chipboard pieces and how versatile they are. Now I'm going to use this arrow, and I'm going to cut it off and use it as an exclamation point. So that's why the arrow is there. And I'm just having a look at the other images and items that come on the Vicki Boutin chipboard stickers, and also just kind of looking around my desk at any other things that I picked out. I've decided to commit to this idea of layering the compass underneath of the heart. It doesn't look perfect, but I do really like the message. And in my scrapbooking pages, the imagery tells a lot of the story. I'm going to use my Tim Holtz tiny attacher to attach that little tab that has the date on it. And then I'm actually going to attach this embellishment to the layers instead of attaching it to the bottom, to the background. And then I'm going to pop up these things because that heart, that yellow heart, is a pretty thick piece of chipboard. So I had to use foam tape behind the photo just to pop the whole thing up so that it's nice and even. So everything lies flat. And now I'm going to place this, and actually when I place it, I'm going to put it, it's a little bit too high now. It's actually a lot too high. And it looks a little bit like it's kind of floating at the top of that mountain in the die cut background. And so I haven't noticed that yet, but when I do, I'll fix it. In the meantime, any pieces of the yes that overlap, that overhang, I'm just putting some little 1/8 pieces, 1/8 inch pieces of foam tape. So these are 1/4 width. And I'm just gonna put them on the parts like the descender of the Y and also the little extra loop-de-loop part of the S. And I needed to decide how long my exclamation point will be, so I cut that off like that. And then I'll just take my scissors and just round the corners. It's not easy. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's pretty thick chipboard, right? But it looks pretty good. I had a couple of what I thought might be the dots for the I in the word this that I used on the last layout. And so I have some of those little pieces left over. So I'll use one of those for the dot in the exclamation point. And then there we go. But I still haven't noticed that that whole cluster with the photo and the yes and the stuff behind it is sitting just a little bit too high. Let's bring it down. Here's where I notice it, and let's just bring it down. There, that's better. So I'm going to take another 1/4 width piece of that foam tape and a tiny little bit of it for the dot. And now I just need to glue down the word yes. So I'm going to use my Tombow Mono Multi-Adhesive, which is the liquid adhesive I've used elsewhere on this project. It's my favorite glue for gluing non-paper to paper, but it's also my favorite glue for gluing paper to paper as well. It's super, super strong. So it's great for using with bulky items like these chipboard pieces because you don't want them to fall off of your page in the layout, like in your album. I did forget to remove some of the adhesive backing on these before I place the word yes, so I'm just kind of gently peeling them back and removing the backing so that those double-sided pieces of tape will do their work. So now I feel like this main cluster is pretty much finished, and I'm going to focus on the upper cluster here, the upper left-hand side, which will hold my journaling in this blue frame. And I'm looking for maybe a piece of vellum or something. I actually went over to my Calyx unit to grab some vellum, and then I remembered I've got a whole bunch of glassine bags with my scraps to my right. And so I decided to use one of these small glassine bags to line this blue chipboard frame from Pink Fresh Studio. I love this set of frames. There's so many frames in it. I checked it, and my 2.5 inch punch is actually perfect for lining this. Now, my punch did get stuck. Punches don't love things like glassine bag paper and wax paper and stuff. But if it gets stuck, one of the best things that you can do is just very gently just tap it on the table, and usually it'll just pop open. And that's what happened here. It doesn't always work, but it often works. Otherwise, I don't know. Sometimes I've really fought with them, so I was lucky this time. Now, there are a couple of different ways that I can add lines to this. You could use a stencil or a template or a ruler, but because it's glassine and it's see-through, what I thought I'd do is use the lines on something else. So here I just picked that Spring Vibes Pink Fresh packaging that the frames came in, and that has this really subtle line pattern on it, and I'm going to use that as my template for drawing some lines for my journaling. See how I'm layering Discover New Places right in exactly the same place as the frame, the yellow part of the frame? I kind of wish I didn't do that. I wasn't paying attention to that, and I mean, it looks fine, but I think it would have been nice to have a bit of the yellow frame showing underneath of where Discover New Places is. Basically, I'm placing the blue frame a little bit lower than what I had when I actually designed and decided how it would go together. So that's what leads it to not line up the way that I had actually originally intended for it to go. But that's okay. It's a small detail, and I do really like the layering of these embellishments anyways. So I just use my ATG, which will go around corners, by the way. It's pretty flexible adhesive in that stuff. So I use that to adhere that frame to my background, and I just had the ATG adhesive just go exactly where the blue frame is, using a little bit more Tombow Mono Multi to attach that yellow chipboard star. So I've got that yellow in 2 places now. Ideally, we like to do things in 3s, but you don't have to always do things in 3s. And then I decided to add this butterfly, and I wasn't sure about it, and the tiaras said yes to the butterfly, so I added the butterfly, and I'm glad that they convinced me to do that because I really like how it looks. I think that the butterfly adds something dynamic to this page that if it wasn't there, the page would feel like it was kind of lacking a little something. So that it's nice. Whenever you feel like a page is not quite right, adding a living thing to it can really help. Living things like bugs or butterflies or bees or anything like that, or stars are also another thing that adds a dynamic energy to a page. So I am going to adhere this butterfly so that the body is adhered right to my base paper, and then the wings will have double-sided adhesive foam tape and doubled up on the larger part of the wings, so that the larger front part of the wings actually pop up off the page a little bit more than the back part of the wings do. I'm adding 2 or 3 enamel dots to these different corners, and I'm just mixing it up. See how there's only 2 there? So this is a diagonal layout, diagonal design. I am going to add another enamel dot to that one cluster that has only 2. I don't believe that you have to always do 3s. I think that rules are sometimes made to be broken, but I did think that that one looked better with a touch of that lighter yellow in that corner, so that's why I went with that. I'm putting all my supplies away so that I can find them for the next layout, and I do scrapbook the next layout right away, so check out my YouTube channel. That should be, the process video for that should be along shortly. I'm just crossing off the few die cuts that I used on this page so that I don't go looking for them and they're not there next time I scrapbook using that set of die cuts. So here are the still photos, and I also wanted to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. Their names are coming up shortly, and make sure you have a look at them because these are the folks that help this channel happen. So big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to all of my process videos and real-time unedited versions of my videos like this live stream, as well as non-live real-time videos. And they also get behind the scenes videos of my room and my process. So thanks to them, and also thanks to you. So here are their names coming up again. I put these in a slightly different order than what I'm used to, so apologies for that. But I hope that you enjoyed this process video. Please take care, have a really great scrappy week. And if you'd like to scrapbook using this kit, there are a few left. It's the Feeling Groovy kit. Go to MercyTiaraKits.com. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.